Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brother Garfield, the Brother Garfield podcast. Today, I have my favorite female in the world coming on today. She is somebody who I've admired for years. I'm a major fan. I'm going to show you how much of a fan I am, family. I'm a major fan of this sister right here, right? But before I bring her on, this sister called what we know as Dr. Oya Mayat. And I want to talk about some things that she has done in the past and some things that we need to talk about as far as what she's doing. You have the Edamine production series Meltrek, and I want you guys to go to the website. It's Edamine. Is it edamine.com or edamineproductions.com? She'll tell me. She'll correct me when she comes on because I want to give her all the things that she's doing. I know she's an educator. She's at the college. She's a doctor. She's everything you want to see in a Black woman today that stands up for women 100%. So there's the Meltrek series #1, and then there's also part 2, episode 2, and there's also different coloring books, family. So she's not only, they're doing a lot of things. She and her children are putting out these series that, I mean, as a matter of fact, I got an order. I ordered the first one. I didn't order 2 yet, so I'm gonna do that. I gotta do that. I said I'm gonna do it with the scholars that came on this week. Dr. Sheikh Ante Babu and Dr. Francesca Stavrokopoulou. I ordered their books already, so I have to order the sister. I got to keep up the rhythm here. I got to keep with the rhythm. So, and I'm encouraging everybody out there also to order these books because this is what you need to pass on to your children. It's a legacy. Meltrek is a legacy. 100 years from now, we need to make sure Meltrek is preserved. So how are we preserving it? Through DVD, through books, and passing it on from one family to another. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you the woman of the day, the woman of the not even, I wouldn't even say the conscious community, one of the strongest women in the Black community I know. When I mean strong, I mean Black power strong. Not even Black power strong, double Black power strong. This sister right here, I've been knowing her for years. She's taught me a lot. And I think she brings something to the table, not only because this is Women's History Month, but she is a woman who has her PhD, family. This is a doctor who took the time out to get her doctorate, and we gotta give her flowers, man. What they say in the hip hop community, give them their flowers while they're alive. And this sister is great. How are you doing today, Dr. Maya?
I'm doing fine, Brother Garfield. How about yourself?
I don't know, man. I think I gotta get spooky like Jabari right now. I think the stars are aligned because last year I interviewed you on the 24th, and today normally that day I shut down, and in August I shut down with my father and mother's, and my father was died back-to-back years, family. So it's like 2000, 2001 was like the worst time period for me. My sister died 2006, and it's been a struggle with August. So August is like the worst, but on the 24th of March is my mom's birthday. And last year, Dr. Maya and I had an interview on this day. And Dr. Maya would correct me if I'm lying. Haven't we been trying to do this particular interview for weeks?
For weeks. And
for some reason, we just keep something happening here, something happening here, something happening here.
And then we're here today, like you said, on your mother's birthday. And you're right. You and I were coordinating this discussion since late February.
Yep.
You had reached out. You said, hey, I want to bring you on for women. You know, Women's History Month is coming up. I want to bring you on. And I said, okay, Brother Garfield, sure. And so, like you said, literally for the past 4 weeks, you and I have been going back and forth. We tried one Tuesday, couldn't connect. Another Thursday, couldn't connect. On a Wednesday, I forgot. And so we've been literally missing each other. And then lo and behold, today was the day that we could do it. And so, like you said, and it's so you know, I always say, brother Garfield, that nothing happens by chance in a universe ruled by divine order. Okay, law and order. And so it happened for a reason, you know, that we were here again on March the 24th. I want to thank you for that beautiful introduction. Brother Garfield, you know, I've always loved you. You know, back in the day, you were beating up the Hebrews. Always. Nothing has changed. Your scholarship has gotten tighter, but you've always been giving the Hebrews the business since I've known you. And I've just watched you grow. You know, I've watched you grow with the Dagger Squad. I love how you bring, and I don't know if you still bring her on, but Sister Monica, you bring her on to talk about economics, to talk about starting your 501c3s and investing and things of that nature. And so I've watched you grow over the years. You have a book you're getting ready to come out with. I think you said a second edition of that book, right? So you've
Mhm,
published a book. You have
mhm.
a podcast. So you've been doing a whole lot, Brother Garfield. And I just want to take this time to acknowledge and to salute you, brother, for all that you
Thank you,
are
sis.
doing.
Appreciate that.
And
Hearing
I
that
also
from
want to say peace and love to the people in the chat. You know, I love all of you, including my haters, Brother Garfield. I have a lot of haters out here, but I
I
love
didn't know
all of them.
nobody hate you though. Why would they hate Dr. Mayat though?
I don't know, Brother Garfield. I don't know. You
Oh
know,
man,
the elders say that if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right, you know. And so
yeah. I
I
say
just
if you ain't got no haters, you ain't nobody. That's what I
right.
say.
Exactly. So I tell my folks I love all of my people, including my haters. Including my haters.
All right, so today we're gonna I want to touch on mathematics a little bit from an African perspective. But before we get into that, can you explain to the audience what does it mean to be African centered, and also to be from an Afrocentric point of view? What does that mean to us?
Oh man. Well,
Mhm,
I probably won't articulate it as well as um one elder and one ancestor. I'm sitting here right now thinking about Kwame Nkrumah. He
mhm,
has a book on African centered education, and in that book, it's a beautiful description of what it means to be African centered. Also, our esteemed elder, Baba Mwalimu Barudi, he has an entire book called Centered, and
mhm.
in that book, he talks about what it means to be, centered, what it means to be an African centered person. But in just a simple definition of what it means to be African centered is just to be operating with an African worldview. Many of us operate with a European worldview, and as Dr. Kobe Kambon, peace be upon his soul, he's an African centered psychologist who wrote a number of books. One being The African Personality in America, another one being Cultural Misorientation. And he talks about the adverse effects of, of us operating with a European worldview. He says that we develop a lot of psychopathologies as a
Mhm.
result of being inculcated, constantly inculcated with European content. And so to be African centered is to be rooted in our history and our culture, to be aware of our achievements, to be aware of our contributions to the advancement of humanity, which is omitted in European curriculums. And so I mean, that to me, like if I had to give a brief definition of what it means to be African centered, I would say to be operating with an African worldview, looking at the eyes through the lenses of our African ancestors and not our former slave masters and our
Right.
oppressors. So viewing the world through our lenses and being anchored in our history, our culture, and our achievements, operating with our morals and our values, not their morals and their values, but our morals and our values. And so that's how I would define being African centered.
In writing this book, right? Misconceptions and misinformation by the Black Hebrew Israelites. And I've been reading so many books, and Asari Motive actually gave me this book, right? It's traditional religion in West Africa. Very, very good book. And what I observe in my area of expertise is that we don't have anthropologists in that area, the ancient Near East. We don't have archaeologists in that area. Matter of fact, the guy that was my Hebrew teacher, his wife, actually a black woman. She's African American. She's actually the only archaeologist I've ever met.
Mm.
She worked with some of the top guys, Finkelstein and Dever and all them guys, but she's in the background. She's the one picking up stones and doing real archaeology, not out front as the person that did the work. But these guys always take all the credit for the quote unquote little people. So it's hard for me to study the biblical text from an African centered point of view. It's hard
Mm.
because I don't see the African in that study. We normally say, okay, these ideas were permeated in Africa, either in Egypt or Ethiopia. We always go that route. I'm looking at ASCAC, which is the guys Reggie and Dr. Molefi Asante and Asari Motep has spoken there a couple of times and all that stuff. They have it every year. And every time I see them talk about anything religious, it always seems they lean on Kemet as one perspective. Like, you know what? Everything comes from Kemet, so the conversation is over. Not as far as a development, a transmission, a methodology. It just seems like we just rush to judgment and say, hey, I'm not saying nothing comes from Kemet. What I'm saying is we don't have the studies to show how this person developed. It's like the book Stolen Legacy, right? We hear so many things positive and negative about that research, but it seems like we read a book in the past and we just paint a brush and just forget about scholarship. It's like everything Greeks came up with has to come from Egypt because of what Stolen Legacy wrote or what Black Athena came up with. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we stay African centered without being overly biased in our research to make everything so African?
No, brother Garfield, I agree 100% with you. There was a book. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at it. It was a book that Sanjetti. It was a book that Sanjetti had recommended to me, and it was a book about. It was a book about the African origins, like, of mathematics. Okay, I'm not saying that that's the title. I'm just saying that it was a book, that talked about, the history of math in Africa, basically. And the author was arguing that the Fourier transform, and I'll explain what the Fourier transform is in a second. But the author, who was I don't know if he was, a continental African, a diasporan African, or whatever, but he was arguing that the Fourier transform came out of Africa. And so, Brother Garfield, I'm reading the book, right? And then you're talking to someone who teaches the Fourier transform. I've been teaching it for 5 years, okay?
Right.
So I'm looking for the book to give me the evidence, right? Like, and so he mentions, African fractals. And if you look at, Africans were well aware of frequency. If you look at how, our clothes, the patterns on our clothes, if you look at how we laid out our villages, if you look at, and peace to Brother Smash Rockwell in the building, peace to you, King, peace, peace, peace. And so if you look at how we wear our hair, so the brother was arguing that African people developed the Fourier transform because of the way we wore our hair and the layout of our villages and the clothes we wore. Like, it made absolutely no sense. And for those of you who are familiar with the Fourier transform was a technique that was developed by a guy named Jean Baptiste Fourier. He was a Egyptologist, and he was a mathematician. And so he developed this method that allows us to view signals. And we know that signals is just information conveyed over a period of time, but to view signals in the frequency domain. So typically when we analyze signals in engineering, we're looking at signals in the time domain, right? So we're looking at amplitude and we're looking at seconds. But his method allows us to view the signal in the frequency domain, okay, where you're looking at frequency, right? Cycles per second as opposed to time. And so this author was arguing that our ancestors came up with the Fourier series, which is a simple integral, that we developed that. And then what he based it on, Brother Garfield, was, I don't want to say nonsense. Like, I don't want to do that to the brother, but it just wasn't a good argument. Okay. And so I completely share your sentiments with, just when we're analyzing things and we're looking at things, making sure that we remain, objective, right? Like, not saying, well, I'm going to make it, Fourier, Jean Baptiste Fourier was an Egyptologist, and so he developed the Fourier transform. So they must have got it from us, And so we gotta stop that nonsense. So I agree 100% with you, Brother Garfield.
Do you think the reason why I stay on my main course of, lack of a better terminology, as main course, because we're not talking about food now, but as far as dealing with Hebrews and Judaism, is I couple of years ago, I said I consider Judaism the mark of the beast. And the reason why I say that is because everybody wants to be a Jew. Everybody wants to be the chosen of God, directly or indirectly. So you have them popped up. There's now a theory that bin Laden was related. The Afghanis were from the tribe of Judah, and bin Laden was related to the tribe of Yo, I'm telling you, sis. Sis, I've heard it's in my book. I've heard it all. I'm telling folks, everybody wants to be chosen. Everybody wants to be chosen, and it's special. It make you feel special. So now, what they're doing with Judaism now is, I don't know if a lot of people know this, they're expanding Judaism where they're converting people like Christianity. So all over Africa, people are converting to Judaism. All over New Zealand, Australia, everybody wants to be a Jew. So I call it the mark of the beast, because you're not going to succeed unless you're a Jew. And why I stay on it so much is because it seems like our worldview is orchestrated or imbalanced because of being in a Judo-Christian society.
Absolutely.
And even if the Muslims had won that war in Europe with the Christians, and we were Muslims today, it still would have been guided by an Abrahamic faith. The same Judaism is still involved in Islam. So how do you feel investigating stuff with any part of Africa, and then you're talking about the stuff that you talked about being invented when you're talking about Maat, but the worldview is you want to be African-centered, but you're growing up in a Eurocentric Judo-Christian society. How do you balance it? Because I want everything to be African. I do. Subconsciously, I'm gonna be honest. I want it to be African. But if it's not, oh, you a sellout. You know, where do we get this craziness from? That everything has to be African.
No, it's and you're right. Everything doesn't have to be. I mean, I respect the contributions, right? That other groups of people have made to the advancement of humanity. What I dislike is when they omit the contributions that we have we have made to the advancement of humanity. And what I think, Brother Garfield, is that they've done it so much that we're like, we got to tell our story, and then in telling our story, we want to disregard everyone else's because we've been so used to being, left out, omitted. And so we're pushing for our story, for our accomplishments, for our history and things of that nature to be taught. And so, but then it's to a point, Brother Garfield, like you said, we want to blackenize everything. We want to Africanize everything. And that's not, I'm trying to look for the right word without being condescending. I don't want to say that's asinine. That was the first word, Brother Caulfield, that came to me. But that's not necessarily true. I'll say that. Everything isn't, African. We live on this planet with other groups of people. Let's call it what it is. We live on this earth. We live on this planet with other groups of people. And just like we've made contributions to the advancement of humanity, so have other groups of people. And it's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. It's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I learned this theory and I got this from so-and-so. And so-and-so may happen to be a European, or I got it from so-and-so. So-and-so may happen to be, an Asian. I mean, you get what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think we're at a point, Brother Garfield, where we've been so damn damaged, Brother Garfield, where we just want to make everything is blackety black. Everything is, you get what I'm saying? And it's not necessary. That's not necessarily true. And I'm African centered to the bone. But I have no problems, recognizing the accomplishments and the contribution and even the history of other groups of people.
How do you deal with the elders? You discovered something was wrong by an elder. Like you discovered something wrong with Dr. Ben. Lately I've been trying not to talk about any elders who have transitioned, because I don't think they're not around, one, to answer for themselves, and two, you can't blame them, because scholarship, as African Americans or Black folks in general, we got to applaud them for actually doing research, especially J.A. Rogers, who John Henry Clark really gave a big shout out to for inspiring him. because if you look at what these guys are doing compared to what you're doing, Dr. Maya, and I think as a culture, we're actually intellectually lazy as researchers because
Mm,
what we have today, they never had Google, they never had Google Scholar, they didn't have the scholarly articles. They never all they had to do, and plus, even if they went to a library, they had to deal with racism and white supremacy. They might not be able to get access. J.A. Rogers was born in Jamaica, but he was a light skinned Jamaican. So he could pass as near white. So at the
mm.
end of the day, J.A. Rogers knocked a lot of doors down and found out this person was black and so forth. People misrepresent his work and then said, oh, King James is black and all that craziness, but he never said that. But all these elders, we find something that's wrong. But what I'm challenging is not the elders. I'm challenging the sources that they use because in that time period, some of the sources were considered legitimate. Some of them were considered legitimate even by European standards or white folks. And now today we might consider it pseudo. It's like in the first century, Josephus wrote that Hercules was a real guy. Tacitus wrote he was a real guy. Today, we consider Hercules fictional. So obviously something has happened in the last 2,000 years as far as methodology when we look at it. So with the elders, it's the same thing. We may have read a source and say, for example, Dr. Ben read a source. Today, we're not looking at Dr. Ben now. We're looking at the source that Dr. Ben read. Would that be the best way
Absolutely.
to look at it?
No, absolutely. I don't think it's wrong with that, but it just seems like in our community, it's like, no, 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 don't correct the elders, or don't, no, 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 don't say anything about the ancestors. Don't, like you're being disrespectful simply because I literally, when I corrected it was Sheikh Antaj Job. He wrote something that was incorrect in his book Civilization of Barbarism. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it was in chapter 6 when he talked about the mathematical contributions of ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet or something like that. But it was just a minor error, and it could have been a typo. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But when I read it, I said, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he can't. Oh no, this isn't true. He must have been this." And when I talked to the community about that, I mean, literally, people, who does she think she is? Who did she think? Who does Dr. I think she is the correct, the great Sheikh Anti Job? And I'm thinking, he made an error, and we treat our ancestors and our elders like they are infallible, right? Like none of us are infallible. None of us are beyond reproach. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I've made errors, and it's going to be someone who comes behind me and say, oh well, when she developed this theory or these tools, she could have done it this way, and that's perfectly fine. And I just don't understand, in our community, in our culture, it's like it's taboo, to correct elders and ancestors. It's like, you can't correct them. And I think that as long as you do it in a respectful way, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Let me give you an example. White folks, true story, in our electrical and computer engineering book, or electric circuits book, they mentioned Ben Franklin, and they call Ben Franklin the father of electricity.
Electricity,
Well,
right?
Ben Franklin thought that electricity was due solely to the flow of protons. They found out that it was due to the flow of electrons. Well, the electrons are flowing in one direction, the protons are flowing in another.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still regarded as the father of electricity. So even though they found out that he was wrong, people found out that he was wrong and they corrected him, he's
Right.
still honored and he's still respected, amongst the European community. And so going back to our community, you know, we're still going to respect our elders and the ancestors, even after we point out some of the flaws that they've made. And like you said, Brother Garfield, we can't knock them because they were operating with the information they had at their expense. I mean, at their, that's what they had at that particular time. And so we can't knock them. Like you said, they didn't have the tools that we had, to search through data. And so, like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with correcting our elders and ancestors as long as we do it in a respectful way. One thing I did not appreciate was there was this brother, um, and brother Uncle know who I'm talking about. He kept saying we gotta retire. They came before Columbus, and he was going at Dr. Ivan Van Sertima
Mm-hmm.
terrible. And so I remember calling Brother Onk up, and this was some years ago. When I called Brother Onk up, I said, "Brother, I understand that, you all may have found some flaws and they came before Columbus, but going online and saying we need to retire the book, retire the book, we don't need, and making it seem like he was a wacko, that's just disrespectful. And then there's another platform called Taz Exclusives. I'm not sure if you heard about him, but he's been going at Dr. John Henry Clark. Y'all call this NIGGA a scholar. I mean, just whole after video, just disrespecting Dr. John Henry Clark.
Wow.
And so, like I said, I mean, if we find some errors in their work, I think there's nothing wrong with pointing them out and showing people where the error was and what it, and correcting it. But we have to be respectful. That's all I ask. We got to be respectful.
Hmm. All right, so let's get into some of your mathematics stuff that you got to show us today. And anyone who has a question, I'll put it on the screen and thumb up the video, like the video, and let's get it in. Floor is yours, sis.
All right. And so I remember okay, so you wanted to talk
The
about,
video, like the video, and let's get it in. Yeah.
all right,
Yeah,
so
you
let
could
me,
talk about the bones, or you could get into the other anything to do with mathematics.
all right, well, go
Or
ahead
if
and
you
show
want
it.
to talk about it while you're sharing it, let's get it in. You know,
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, Brother Garfield. You got to click on it and add it to
hold
the.
on, let me get you in right here. Get your full screen.
All
All right, there
right.
you go. It's all yours.
So can you see my presentation now?
Yes, I can.
All right. So, and then this comes out of the work of, shout out to Brother Asar Imhotep, in his book Illusia, Volume 2. He has a chapter where he talks about the origins I believe, the origins of STEM or the origins of mathematics. And he mentions a deity called Shazet. And so this is a picture of Shazet carved on the back of the throne of the seated statue of Ramesses II in the Amun Temple at Luxor. And I had the honor of going to Luxor with Anthony T. Browder this past December. So anyway, so this is Shazet sitting right here on the back of the throne of the seated statue of Ramesses, or some people say Ramses II at Luxor. And it says it dates from around 2050 BCE. Now, Shazet was the complement of, some people say Jehudi, some people say Tahuti, some people says Thoth. Okay, but he was the nature of writing, the nature of speech. And so she was the nature of wisdom, knowledge, and writing. And she was seen as a scribe and a record keeper. And so her name actually means, she who scrivens. Okay, she who is a scribe, and she's credited with the invention of writing alongside her complement, Tahuti or Jehudi or Thoth. Okay, she later became identified as the goddess of architecture, astronomy, astrology, building, mathematics, and surveying. So STEM. So it says in today's terms, we would say that she was the personification of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. The reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention or even to discuss this deity, Brother Garfield, is to show the people that we were so involved in STEM. STEM was deemed so important by us that we deified it, right? We deified it, literally. Okay. And that's how important science, technology, engineering, and math was important to our African ancestors. And so throughout Kemet, and this is in Kemet, but in Kemet, you had the oldest math documents, the oldest documents of medicine. You have, look at the beautiful architecture, right? That was created using the math and the science and the technology that they had at that particular time. But STEM was extremely important to our African ancestors. And some people don't think about this. Our African ancestors, a lot of the herbalists, they are scientists too.
Mhm.
They are scientists too. So a lot of those sisters who sat there and they looked at the different plants and they analyzed the properties of the plants and figured out what plants are harmful, what plants are good for us, what plants can cure what disease. That is science. And so, even the herbalists, the doctors, the healers in our community, they were the scientists. Okay. The priests at the temples in Kemet, they were the scientists. All right. So I just want to talk about that. And then before I get into um, going back to the ancient times, I want to bring it up to play. I want to bring it up to today. It's Women's History Month, right? And so I want
Hmm.
to highlight Black women in STEM. One of which is Dr. Michelle A. Cornegay. All right, this is a sister who is an associate professor and senior faculty researcher for the Center of Reverse Engineering and Assured Microelectronics in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Morgan State University. This is my mentor, and she's also the reason why I pursued my doctorate in engineering. I mean, she's the first woman. She was the first woman to receive her doctorate, her DE, from Morgan State University School of Engineering, and she inspired me to follow in her footsteps. In fact, on the day that she was hooded, which was on March, I'm sorry, not March, but May the 18th, 2003, on the day that she was hooded, I was receiving my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. And I remember she sat in front of me, and I was extremely, extremely proud of just seeing her hooded. She had her big, she had the real, we call it the choir robe. Um, gown on. Typically, when you get your BS degree, you graduate with those little paper thin gowns. But when you get your masters and your PhD, they give you the big choir robe type of type of gowns. And so she had her, she had on her garments, and I sat there just so inspired. I said, "Wow, if she can do it, I can do it." And so I want to first highlight and salute Dr. Michelle A. Cornegay. I also want to highlight Dorothy Johnson Vaughn. Okay, this was a sister who she was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and then she moved to West Virginia with her family. She graduated with her bachelor's in mathematics from Wilberforce University in Ohio. She worked as a math teacher for 14 years, and this was the sister who was the acting supervisor of what they called the West Area Computers, which was the first African American woman. I'm sorry, she was the first African American woman to supervise a group of staff at that center. So she was working, for NASA, formerly known as, the National Advisory Committee of Aeronautics. And so she was the supervisor of that department. They called it the Department of Human Computers, which was really a department of Black women, Black mathematicians who were responsible for the calculations. And I know some of you pseudos will say, "Oh, we never made it to the moon. That never happened when they with the astronaut circulating around the Earth, and no one ever did that. No ever." Well, when you say foolishness like that, you're literally discounting the work of your ancestors, because it was Black women. I want to say this again. It was Black women who made it possible for them to do those things. Okay. And so even when they began to usher in computers, right? IBM created a computer that had a programming language, Fortran. When they began to usher in the computers, there was no need for these human computers anymore, right? And so when they said, "Okay, we're going to do away with this department," what this sister did was she went and taught herself the programming language Fortran, and then taught it to those Black women. So, and they learned how to program the computers that were being developed by IBM. All right, so I want to salute Sister Dorothy Johnson. Also, would like to salute Sister Mary Jackson. Sister Mary Jackson was she earned her. She's from Hampton, Virginia. She earned a BS in mathematics and physical science from Hampton University, and some people will say that's the original HU and not Howard. But she also worked at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. Okay, which was again is now it's NASA. Okay, and she started as a research mathematician, or what they would call a computer. She was a human computer, and so she became NASA's first African American female engineer, and she became an aeronautical engineer in 19 58. So I want to salute Sister Mary Jackson. I also would like to salute Sister Katherine Johnson, who just became, an ancestor on February the 24th, 2020. This sister also, worked at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. And it says she was reassigned to their guidance and control division at Langley's Flight Research Division. And she completed or computed the calculations necessary for several space missions, including the 1969 moon landing. And this is for those pseudos who say that we've never landed on the moon. It was actually a Black woman and her calculations that made this possible. And so I want to acknowledge her. And so these women that I'm talking about, their lives were told in the movie Hidden Figures. And so I remember, Brother Garfield, when this movie came out, oh my goodness, I was extremely, extremely me and other female engineers and mathematicians and scientists that I'm connected to, we loved Hidden Figures because it showed that yes, Black women are scientists too. Black women are mathematicians too. Black women are engineers too, because those fields are typically, they're male dominated fields. And so when this movie came out, I mean, I'm telling you, we were all texting each other and calling each other because we were like, yes, 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 finally, it's depicting Black women as mathematicians, as scientists, and as engineers. And so their lives were told in this movie. And this is one of my favorite movies. I would like to acknowledge Dorothy Lavinia Brown. This was a sister who became, the first African American female surgeon. Okay, it says that she was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and lived in an orphanage until she was 12. And it says while she was in the orphanage, she had an experience that sparked her interest in the field of medicine. Okay, and so shout out to this sister right here, Sister Dorothy. Sister Gladys Mae West. This was a sister whose mathematics brought about the invention of GPS. So I know a lot of us will sit here and use Google Maps, and before Google Maps, we were using MapQuest. Well, it was the mathematics of a Black woman that enabled this technology to be produced. Okay, so salute to Sister Gladys Mae West. Of course, we had to acknowledge Sister Mae Jemison, who's still with us, who's still among us. This was a sister who became the first Black woman to travel into space when she served on the mission specialist, or as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. So, again, when we say things like, oh, they never been to the moon, they never been in outer space, they never did this, you're literally discounting the accomplishments of Black women who have been a part of these things. I also want to acknowledge Sister Valerie A.L. Thomas. Her alma mater was Morgan State University. Okay, and this sister invented what's called the illusion transmitter, which is a device that used concave mirrors to project 3D optical illusions. So this is a bad sister who's still among us. And in fact, Brother Garfield, I'm going to reach out to her to see if she can come on my platform to talk about what she created. Last but not least, Brother Garfield, and some of the anti-vaxxers may be upset when I show Sister Kizmikia, Sister Kizzy. This was a sister who was born in North Carolina, who received her BS in biological sciences and sociology from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. And she received a PhD in microbiology and immunology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And it says in October of 2014, she became a research fellow working as a viral immunologist at the at the National Institute of Health, where she began heading the government's search for a vaccine to end the coronavirus outbreak. All right. And so, Brother Garfield, I know I've been going. Did you want to chime in at any point, or you want me to keep on flowing?
Keep on flowing, man. It's all good.
Okay.
Man. Here we go.
All right.
My
so here we
favorite
go.
part coming up. Here we go. Yep.
Absolutely. And so I just wanted to highlight those women for Women's History Month. In the show that we come from. Now I'm going to show that we come from a long legacy of of mathematics in science. And Brother Garfield is I just want to say this. It's also important to highlight women during just having Women's History Month is important because living in this society and being in male dominated fields, a lot of the contributions that women make seem to be overshadowed, right? So so for example, we'll talk about Dr. King's and what he did, Dr. Martin Luther King. We'll talk about him, but we won't talk about Coretta Scott King, right? Like what she's done. Okay. We have a national holiday, right, for Dr. King because of Coretta Scott King. So we'll talk about Dr. King, but we won't talk about Coretta. We'll talk about Malcolm X, but we won't talk about Dr. Betty Shabazz, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Honorable Marcus Garvey, but you won't talk about Henrietta Vinton Davis, who held it down when Garvey was in jail.
Yeah.
And even after they deported him, she went and stayed with him. We'll talk about these men, but we
Yep.
won't highlight the women. We'll talk about the Black Panther Party and Huey P. Newton and what's this? Oh goodness, I'm sitting here thinking about it.
Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale, thank you. We'll talk about Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, but we won't have conversations about Asada Shakur, right? Angela Davis, and and Catherine Cleaver, and a number of other Black women who held down the Panther Party, and even other Black liberation movements. Even with us, we talk about Dr. Milena Karenga, but we won't talk about those women in us, right? That made it happen. So anyway, I think it's just important for us to take some time to set aside some time to highlight the contributions of women. So anyway, just I just wanted to show you all the Lumbambo bone. I'm just moving into how we come from a long legacy of mathematics and science and technology and engineering. Okay, so the Lumbambo bone, which is really a counting stick, right? Like if I look at the description of it, it says the oldest mathematical instrument is a tally stick. It was it's literally, you see these notches on the fibula of a baboon. Okay, and it's 29 notches on this fibula. And so they say that this was it could be a measuring stick, maybe a lunar phase counter, and so people have their ideas or their theories on what it was, but they think it's a tally stick. And before we went live, I remember, Brother Garfield, you asked me, you said, "Oh, could this have been the beginning of the creation of a lunar calendar?" And I'm like, well, yeah, it could be, right? Like if you think about it, right? Like that's a possibility that I wouldn't rule out, yeah, given that it did have 29 notches on it. So it may have been someone counting, right? Like counting the days. I don't know. All right. And so anyway, it is dated to about 35,000 BC. It was discovered in the 1970s by a researcher named Peter Beaumont, and it was found near the border cave in the Lumbambo Mountains. That's why they call it the Lumbambo Bones, between South Africa and Swaziland. Okay, and so this particular site was first excavated in the 1930s and the 1940s, and they found a whole lot of stuff. They found that there was a cave that was being continuously occupied, for over 120,000 years. That's why when we say white folks are cave people, they're cave people, I'm like, do you understand that it was our ancestors who migrated south and stayed in caves, which is the reason why we're here today, right, Brother Garfield? I know Brother Unk talks a lot about that and how there was this ice age or ice, this ice storm that came through and it sucked up all of the waters and people migrated south. Well, when we migrated south, we stayed in caves, right? So,
Wow.
and in these caves, you find the oldest evidence of symbolic thought. So if you give up the caves, you give up the oldest evidence of symbolic thought, the oldest evidence of art. Okay, so our ancestors were living in caves too, right? So anyway, when they excavated the border cave, found that it was occupied for over 120,000 years. They found human bone fragments. They found 69,000 artifacts, and they found 43 mammal species. Okay, and so the most interesting find, in my opinion, was this Lumbambo bone. And then you have the Ashango bone that's being housed at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences. This bone is about 20,000 years old. And it was discovered by John D, and I probably butcher his name, Henzeling, in the 1950s. Again, it's 20,000 years old. They say that it has 168 parallel marks positioned in groups distributed on three sides. Now, they believe, a lot of people postulate, well, John postulate, that the groups represented numbers, right? And so if you look in the center of the bone, you see 3, 6, 4, 8, 10, and 5. And so you see doubles, right? Except the last two values, 5 and 7. But more than likely, you see doubles. Okay. If you look at the right side, it says that the right side, could be linked to, base 10, right? Or if you look at the left side, it may be showing prime numbers, right? And the prime number is just a number that's divisible by itself in one. So they're saying that the left column may have shown, prime numbers. All right. But other researchers are saying that it may be like a sliding scale involving 3 and 4 base numbers, or that it may be just a system number notation related to the lunar calendar, right? And so, anyway, the Lumbambo bone was found in the Great Lakes region, right in Lake Edward. Okay. And so it's the East African Rift System Western Branch, which is the 15th largest lake in Africa. And it flows, it says northwardly flow. So it's the source of the White Nile. So we know that the Nile River is consists of the Blue and the White Nile. And so they're saying that this Lake Edward, is a source of the White Nile. All right. And so this area that we're talking about, Lake Edward, it was excavated in 1935, 1950, 1959. And it revealed, they found bones of Homo sapiens sapiens. They found harpoons, which are like the fishing hooks, different types of harpoons. And they also found quartz tools. All right. And so that is where they found the Lumbabo bone. Want to get into some of the documents that we found in Kemet. Oh, in this presentation, I may not have the documents. Oh, I did have the documents. All right. So we have, I'm looking for the Rhine's mathematical document. That's the first one I wanted to show you. They call it the Rhine's papyrus, or, we like to call it the papyrus of the scribe of Amos. That's what when he signed his name, he signed it the scribe of Amos. So the Rhine's papyrus is being housed in the British Museum. And family, I cannot wait to take a trip to go to the British Museum. I think I may spend like the entire.
I went there last year, and I have videos and everything. I made a lecture to this guy had known me from YouTube, and he stopped me in the museum, and I was lecturing his daughters the importance of history. I got to put that video up too. Yeah, I was in the museum. I did a whole video. I called Sean because I needed to translate something, and he ain't pick up the phone. And I told him I'm not calling him no more. I call him live. Say translate this for me live, bro. And it was crazy. We did a whole video shoot and everything. I gotta put up everything one day. I just haven't had the time.
Brother Garfield, I know you got lost in the museum. Like I know you were just taken back.
I went through the whole Kemet, then I had to go to the whole Assyria part, then I went to the whole Mesopotamia part, Sumer. I went through everywhere, man. Everywhere. Went through the Greek period, the Roman period, the Persian period, the Assyrian period. I went through all the periods, and I was videotaping the whole time. They say you can't videotape, but they can't tell me not to. I'm going here to see my ancestors, man.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad you videotaped it. I hope that you do put it out there. And I do have to admit that I'm super jealous of
I went to the library. I got signed up because the guy from England, black family, he you probably know him, but you probably don't know that you know him. He probably follow your channel and everything. And he was my escort to the whole trip. And he set up all the book signings. That's where I saw all your works, your documentary was in stores. And I'm like, oh, look at Dr. Maat all the way in the UK. So,
oh wow, beautiful.
Yeah, I went to a store. There's this big center that they have in Birmingham, UK, and they had a bookstore beside it. This big facility, and your book was in that facility. The lady took some of my books to sell also.
Oh, beautiful, brother. Yep. Brother Garfield? Why did you take a picture? Did you take a picture of that?
You know what? I think I did. I got to go through my phone because my phone has the dates when I went and everything, so I could just go back and check. And then on top of it, I went to I joined the library, so now I could log in from here and find out different stuff in the archive because I'm doing the whole King James thing.
Mm.
So I'm supposed to do a debate in the UK with Brother Daniela from Lands of Israel on King James and all that stuff. But I found some images. I went to the National Archives, sis, and I saw images of King James I have never seen in my life.
Ah, God,
Primary
don't tell me
sources
more.
in his lifetime. So when
Ah,
I'm done with Daniela, they can't say he's black anymore. They can't. They trust me. They can't. They
mm,
can't say he's black. At his funeral, they said he was white. You can't.
mm.
You can't. You can't. You can't go around. And by the way, too, when we look at in America, when we say somebody's dark and swarthy, and we say that the person is black because they say that, the reason why they use those words for white people is because of the British. The British thought they were the superior white race.
Mm.
So everybody else who is a little bit darker than dark white or brunette white, as they call it, would be
Mm.
swarthy. They call Al Capone in Chicago dark and swarthy. And Al Capone was a straight up white man.
Right,
But
straight up.
they call him dark and swarthy. They call the Italian mafia people dark and swarthy. And they were
Mm.
white as snow. But hey, I mean, y'all gonna see when me and him do the debate. Y'all gonna see. I'm gonna put the primaries out. I was at the National Archives, and the white guy was there at the counter, and he said,
Mm.
"Look at this. Check this book out. This should tell you a lot of the stuff." And he showed me a book that they wrote at the National Archives with all the images of King James and how he looked in what time period, when he was a baby, when he grew up, and da da da. I'm like, and I'm looking at it. I'm taking pictures. And I'm like, "Can I get this book?" I went by the museum. No, I went by the library. No, the museum. They have a bookstore right beside the museum. And
Mm.
that book, that had every book you want to know about what's in the museum. And that King James book, I bought it immediately. I bought the King Charles book. I went to another museum, the one where the Queen lived at when she's not at Buckingham Palace. I went to that museum, bought a book over there with King Charles with all the primaries. So trust me, I got all the search on them kings. So if people want to know if he's
Dagger.
black or white, I got all the
Daggers.
primaries.
Look,
I got all
daggers,
the primaries.
daggers. That's all I keep hearing is daggers, daggers, daggers,
Yep.
daggers. But I hope that's really on my bucket list to go over to the British Museum and just like I said, spend a few weeks over there and just get lost in the museum. You know what I mean, brother Garfield? And like you say, and just gather
Mhm.
data. Because and I'm with you. I'm taking pictures and I'm video recording. All
Yeah.
right, because like you said, this is really our stuff.
Yeah,
A
even
lot of stolen
in the
artifacts.
yeah, in the museum they say that you can't take images of a matter of fact, let me look through this right now, see if I find where when I went to that spot and see if I could give you a picture of that right now and just send it to your inbox. I have this phone and I have my other phone. So one of these phones must have those pictures.
Mhm.
Here we go. This is when I was at a spot. Let me see if I
Yeah, send it to me. I think you just sent it. Hold on, let me look.
no, I didn't send it yet.
You
No,
didn't
hold on.
send it to somebody else trying to get at me. Hold on. No, you didn't send it.
But I'm gonna send you this image and you can't put this image up. I'm gonna tell you
You
right
said I
now.
can't?
You can't. Don't put it up yet.
Okay,
I'm
I
gonna
won't. I
right.
won't.
This is King James and his son. Just look at it. That's his son at Wales, and that's a primary image right there. I just sent it to your inbox.
Oh, daggers. Da-
I
dagger. This is
haven't
a
shown that.
dagger.
Yep, I've only shown you and Rob on that image. I'm killing it. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill that whole thing. You
Oh
see,
yeah,
you
it's
gotta
over.
find images that were authorized, and the images that they show is actually not by painters, it's by engravers, people that never met King James. So all
Mm,
these you have, I mean, the whole King James thing is just flawed. The methodology is just flawed, totally, totally.
mm.
And they don't
Yeah, I'm looking at
understand
the image
image.
now. It's over. I'm looking at the image now. You show that it's over, brother Garfield. It's over.
Yep, and that's him and his son. Yep, primary source.
Yeah.
1605, 1605, crowning his son the King of Wales. Yep.
Oh yeah, as soon as you show this, it's over. It's not going to be a debate. I don't even when you show this image, it's going to end the debate. That's it's not even going to be a debate after you show this image. So I don't even know how he's going to recover. after you show this image. But I'm almost finished up,
And I
brother
also,
Garfield. Let me
one more thing too. When you
huh?
go to the National Archives, you got to go there
The
because they
National
have a,
Archive.
you know, the conspiracy people always say they got a secret room. They really have a secret room. So they have a room where you have to book and go there, and they have to actually bring the stuff to you and put it in a drawer and give you permission to go in the drawer. What I
Mm.
did was I actually went down there, went in the drawer, saw a primary image, a drawing of King James. And when you, this is another dagger, by the way, too. I videotaped it, so nobody can say I made it up. And when you see this image and this video, the game is over. You know what I'm saying? It's wrapped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you say go to the National Archives as well as the British Museum.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
But you got the British Library, the British Museum, and the only place I didn't regret going that I didn't get to go was the University of College of London. They have a library because that's where um, Michael Hammer and David Rowe and all the racists, Michael Rice, they went to that school. Um, Petrie's guy that used to fund him was attached to that school. So it's really a racist school, but they got a lot of top line, top notch information there. University of College of London.
Mm. Mm. Well, like I
All right.
said, I hope to be one in a number soon. And I want to spend, I want to spend some time over there. Like you said, I don't want it to just be one day I'm at the British Museum, the next day. I really want to spend, I want to take my time with this because it's a lot of information.
Yep.
In these institutions. So I really want to lay eyes on the Rhine Papyrus if I'm able to. But the Rhine Papyrus, again, it was produced by a scribe, Amos, is written in hieratic, and
Mhm.
is to the second intermediate period, approximately 1550 BC. Now, this is the meat and potatoes. Okay. The Rhine Papyrus contains 84 tables of division, multiplication, the handling of fractions, and geometry, including volumes and areas. So a lot of these things, these concepts that our children learn, in elementary and in middle school, a lot of our ancestors were doing that thousands of years ago, brother Garfield. And so we had, one of the oldest mathematical documents, right? Look at the papyrus of Moscow, the Moscow papyrus. It's also written in hieratic and is dated to the Middle Kingdom, approximately 1850 BCE. This contains 25 problems, mostly in geometry. So when you have people that say, "Oh, we didn't build the pyramids, it was aliens and all this other crap," I'm like, do you know that we had the technology and the know-how to build it? We understood the math, we understood the science. It's right here. As a matter of fact, I believe it's either in the Moscow or the Rhine's papyrus where there's a problem where they're solving the volume of a pyramid. Like I said, I don't know whether it's the Moscow or the Rhines, but it's in one of these papyruses that literally they are solving, trying to find the volume and the area of a pyramid. And so, yes, we did build the pyramids, and it kills me when people say that we don't. And let me show you what is a dagger when it comes to people who say we didn't build the pyramids, uh, brother Garfield. Anyone can pull this paper. It's called the Exley B. Cox Jr. Expedition Excavation at Midam, right? So at the excavation at Midam, they found that when they analyzed the pyramids, they literally saw the names of the pyramid builders. The pyramid builders worked in gangs. And so on the stones, they found the names of the pyramid builders written in hieroglyphs. I'm gonna say that again, brother Garfield. For those
Mm-mm-mm.
of the people who believe that aliens built the pyramids, pull this paper right here. The excavations that might them, or maybe made them. I may be butchering it because of my Baltimore accent, but pull the picture, pull this publication nonetheless. All right, it's been published in the Museum Journal, volume 22, pages 5 through 85. If you read the excavation, you'll find that when they analyzed the pyramids and they looked at the daggone bricks, they saw the names of the pyramid builders. Okay, they worked in gangs. And so you see the names of the gangs. And I don't know, maybe each gang had to produce, a certain amount of bricks. I don't know. Maybe that was how they tracked the amount of work that the gangs did. But nonetheless, the the gangs wrote their names. They wrote it in hieroglyphs. And not only did they write it in hieroglyphs, they wrote it in red ochre. And anyone that knows about red ochre, it's a red pigment, right? That was first used in Pinnacle Point, which is in South Africa. So unless the aliens, I said brother, unless the aliens, brother Garfield, got a hold of some red ochre and they've already had that tradition and they already knew the glyphs. I mean, I don't know, but I think that's a dagger in itself that we have the names, that we have the gang names, okay, stemming from the fourth dynasty stones at Midam. Okay, so that's a dagger in itself. So we built the pyramids. People can go ahead with that nonsense about the aliens and about the white Jews building it. They can go ahead with that mess. All right, and I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to show the people? Okay, it was one more papyrus. We call it the Berlin Papyrus 6619. And this is a papyrus um, that has, it says, readable fragments produced in the 1900s. It was produced around the Middle Kingdom, written in hieratic. And the types of problems, math problems that they find in this papyrus is the square numbers, which is evidence of the knowledge of the properties of the Pythagorean triplets. Okay, so our children learn that c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. They learned that that was developed or introduced by Pythagoras, when really you have a papyrus that's dated back, to the Middle Kingdom, that has, squared numbers and evidence that we knew the properties of Pythagorean triplets prior to, you know, the Pythagorean theorem being created. Okay. In this particular papyrus, they also show you how to solve a system of two equations. And that's something that we do in algebra, right? Algebra 1 and 2, where we solve, simultaneous equations or a system of equations. So this is evidence that our ancestors were even doing algebra 1 and algebra 2 thousands of years ago. So that concludes, let me get rid of this. That concludes my presentation, Brother Garfield, and I appreciate you, allowing me to come on your platform to share this information with your viewers.
All right. For anyone who has a question, now's your time. Let's get it. Somebody asked earlier, do you think Brother Garfield is pseudo?
No, no, I don't. I don't think Brother Garfield is pseudo.
Oh man.
And someone said, "What Lions time?" He said that sounded very Baltimore-y. Yeah, Lions and what? And what Lions? What's your point? Did you understand the information? Did you get it?
Sister got some knowledge. Salute. All
Yeah,
right.
did you get it? People be saying stuff. I look at, posts sometimes, Brother Garfield, and comments that people make, and they'll point out the most minute thing. And I'm like, did you get the message, brother? Did you understand the information? They kill me with that foolishness.
All right. Nobody want to ask no question.
Oh,
Y'all point it
Essie
out.
44 said he was just joking. Okay, Essie. I'm about to go in, Essie. All right, thank you so much, Sister Tamika. Sister Juju, the Queen's in the building. Brother
Yeah, the website
Zane.
is edamineproductions.com. It's in the chat. Sister Juju put it in. Ao Hashem, thank you for the contribution. Let me see who else made a contribution. Sister Anusha, thank you. I think they got a four girl group now that has a YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Those,
need to big it up. You know what I'm saying? I need
those
to
are my girls right there. And why Brother Pierre Black? He said we be trolling you, Doc. He ain't lying. I look at the chat like, why he say, what are they doing? So so I guess that's trolling. That's the thing that people do. But yeah, family, please support the Meltrek Project. Thank you so much, Brother Garfield, for talking about the Meltrek Project. We're currently working on Meltrek episode 3, exploring the Ma'afa, the arrival of the Portuguese.
still need my accent, man. You still need my Jamaican accent. It's
What
still,
happened?
I say you still need my Jamaican accent.
Yes. Yes, you need to come down to Baltimore because we're
I'm gonna come
recording
down
the
there.
voiceover.
I'm gonna drive down there. Let's tell me when. I'll drive down.
Okay, yeah, we need you, and we'll put you up, Brother Garfield. You don't got to worry about anything. You come down, you want to stay a day or so, we'll put you up and take care of your gas, take care of your tolls. So we'll make sure we pull out the red carpet for you when you come down. But yeah, we're working on Meltrek episode 3. We have to record 3 people. That is the griot, which is you, one of the little kids, a middle school child, Bunchy, and we had to record the narrator. I was thinking about using a Saw Amhotep's voice for the narrator because his voice is so deep. So I was thinking about using him for that.
They got this dude named oh man, he's supposed to do the audio version of my book. I forgot his name. He got a Grammy Award too.
But his voice is really deep.
His voice is nice, perfect.
Yes. Yeah, I need one of those. I'm looking for one of those James Earl Joneses.
Barry White type stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna hit up Kaya. Sheffrin said, please don't come to Baltimore, Garfield. Shaking my head.
Sheffrin, funny. But look, so we're working on Meltrek episode 3, exploring the Ma'afa, where we're going to be talking about, slavery, the system of slavery, how it got started, why it got started, and the amount of wealth that was created from this system. We're going to talk about, of course, we got to talk about resistance as well. And we're going to be, so I don't want our children to think, oh, we just ran away from, we'll be talking about the Maroons. We'll be highlighting the Maroon communities. We'll be talking about, all of the ancestors who fought back. And so anyway, it's going to be a beautiful, it's actually 3 episodes. So it's Exploring the Ma'afa part 1. There'll be a part 2 and part 3. Okay. So sort of like a mini series where we explore the Ma'afa. And so we're working on that. We also launched a program. I'm not sure if Brother Ankh talked to you about it, but it's a program called Conscious Ingenuity. The website will be live on Friday, but we've launched this program in several schools in Baltimore City. It's a program that utilizes STEAM to build character, confidence, and capabilities. We're in several schools in Baltimore City, and we're getting ready to offer a virtual version of the program so that children around the world will have access to conscious ingenuity. All right. And so I need to come back on, Brother Garfield. But at some point, to give people that information so that people can get their children enrolled in this STEAM program.
Did you add the Hanseatic League to your thing about the slave trade? Because the slave trade wouldn't have happened if that didn't get cut off. Hanseatic League. The Hanseatic League is in Northern Europe. And what happened is that once the Ottoman Empire got involved and cut off them, the Jews, the Portuguese had to find other ways to make money. So that's when they started exploring.
No, you got to put me on with that source. Is it in your book?
It's gonna be my part 2, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You got to put me on.
We have to establish why the slave trade happened, and it had nothing to do with no religion.
No, it didn't have anything.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but we mentioned how when the Portuguese first came in, they came in through Quetta, then they made their way into Morocco, then Mauritania, then they got around Cape Bojador and made it into the Guinea, and then they started kidnapping people. And so we talk about it from there, but we didn't go all the way back to what you're talking about.
We got a question for you. Why do you think math? Hold on, let me put it on the screen. Why do you think math so hard for most of us to understand, and how can we overcome?
Great question. That's a great question.
Before you answer that, when I first came to this country and I went to college in Queens, this sister I was dating said to me, "It's a conspiracy why we don't know math." there's some conspiracy, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just got off the boat, but maybe you can help me to understand why she said that too.
No, I think that Sister Regina's question is really. I think it's hard because of the way that it's taught. That's what I think. And there's a brother. I don't know if you heard of Akil Parker. He has a program called, I think it's All This Math, and he makes math really really easy for children to understand. And so again, I think, Sister Regina, to answer your question, I think that it's because of the way that it's taught. And to overcome this, we have to invest in people, in tools that will better facilitate the learning of mathematics. You get what I'm saying, Sister Regina? And so, we got to tap into people like, Akil Parker. You have, oh my goodness, Gifted and Lit. They have a math program, okay, where they use culturally responsive strategies to teach math and science to our babies. And so, we have to really, in order to overcome this, invest in tools that would, again, like I stated previously, better facilitate the learning of math. Me personally, I love, it's a tool called Alex that I adore. Aleks, Alex. And it's a tool that will assess what you know, and based on what you know, it creates like a path for you to follow in order to learn certain topics. And so this software or this system is based on machine learning. So it's kind of like it tailors your learning experience, okay, to what you know and what you don't know. And so I love that tool, Alex. So again, it's just, investing in tools that will help us learn math. So Pure Black said, what's my take on the opinion of Queen and Zenga? Yeah, I know Pure Black people were going at Queen and Zenga. I had brought Brother Onk on and we addressed this actually, but people were saying and I know Chef is probably boiling right now in the chat, but we talked about Queen and Zenga, and people say, oh, she participated, in the slave trade, and she did this and she did that. And what I'll say, and I said this on the show publicly when they first started going at Sister Queen and Zenga, I'll say that we have to be careful about judging the actions of our ancestors through 21st century lenses. So we'll sit back, Brother Garfield, and say, so and so, I mean, look at what they did. Integration was wrong. Look at what they did, and they shouldn't have did, and they shouldn't have did, and they should have knew, and they should have knew. But we have to understand that these people were products of the era. They were products of the era. They were products of their culture, products of what was going on within the system. And so, I say all that to say, I don't want to say she did what she had to do, but I mean, that's kind of words that were coming coming to my mind. So Tom
Hey,
Ford says, when in
hold
Africa.
on, sis. Hold on, sis. Before you read that question, let me say this. The Hebrew Israelites always claim Wida is actually Judah. And for those who don't know, the most slaves came from that port, 1.85 million. Almost 2 million came from that port of Wida. And it's not the Wida people that's being enslaved. It's other tribal people capturing people in the Alada community, people in Dahomey, people in the Oyo Kingdom, the Yoruba people. So these are tribal wars. And now today in the 21st century lens, we're looking at it as countries. That's where you even off the bat, you wrong totally. You're not even looking at it correctly. Tribal wars is not, there is no geographic carved out Africa during the slave trade. These were different tribes and different eras who ruled over different eras, and they had wars with their neighbors, and they had prisoners of wars, and they felt, hey, the best way for me sometimes to get guns is to basically pass on these prisoners of wars. So that's basically what happened. Did people purposely say, hey, I'm gonna capture my people? Yes, you did have some African tribes selling their own people at times. It's a little less than 0.1% did that. It's not predominant all over Africa stuff. But most of the people that came over were prisoners of wars. It's a fact. It's a fact. So for us to say Africans sold Africans, no, you're actually incorrect. Tribal men had wars and had prisoners of wars and sold them. It was just a part of the culture.
Exactly. And then can we also add, Brother Garfield, that they didn't have it was no concept of all of us are Africans and we're selling other Africans into
Exactly.
slavery. It wasn't even a concept of that, right?
You know, I asked a question in my back chat today. I said, would you guys consider Algeria Africa? Because I've never heard somebody claim Algeria in the African American community. We've never claimed it.
Mm,
We've never
mm,
claimed Algeria. Nobody has claimed Algeria since I've learned the word Africa. Oh, no.
mm.
But anyway, let's move on to this question. When in African history do we see the first evidence of advanced mathematics?
Now, Tom Ford, when you say advanced mathematics, what are we talking about? Are we talking about Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, differential equations, linear algebra, prob and stats? Is that the advanced mathematics that you're speaking about, Tom Ford? Because the highest I've seen would be geometry, algebra, like algebra 1 and 2, and geometry. So, Tom Ford, is that what you're talking about when you say advanced mathematics? Let me even look at what they consider. Let me see definition of advanced. What are we talking about here? Because I didn't see any evidence of calculus. I didn't see any evidence of calculus. Um, so when you say advanced math, it says usually refers to complex fields as trig, calculus, or algebraic number theory. So yeah, I mean, they did have algebraic number theory, and we know, and they had geometry, which isn't trig, right? Um, Trigonometry isn't. Yeah, you have algebra for trig, and I always say that trig is like a combination of algebra and geometry, right? But it says that algebraic number theory. Okay, so algebra. Okay, so higher mathematics, according to dictionary.com, it said the advanced portions of mathematics customarily considered as embracing all beyond arithmetic, geometry, algebra, and trig. So if we go by that definition, I haven't seen any evidence of calculus um, being used in Africa. I haven't seen it, but just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've in the literature that I've read, I haven't seen evidence of like trig or differential equations, linear algebra, or even prob and stats. I haven't seen it in the literature.
Sir Drop TV, what's up? All right, all right. Any more questions?
Oh, he
All right.
said algebra. He said algebra and geometry. Well, yeah, there's evidence of algebra and geometry being used and is seen in African history going back, um, 2000 BCE, going all the way back there, Tom Ford. So if you're talking about algebra and geometry, absolutely. And I talked about that in my presentation. So I don't know if you came late,
Yeah, he
but if
came
you
late.
could just,
Came
yeah,
late.
you need to go back and check that out. So if you're talking about algebra and geometry, our ancestors absolutely understood algebra and geometry. But when you mentioned advanced mathematics, my mind went to calculus, differential equations, linear algebra, and prob and stats. And so I haven't seen that stuff in the literature, but definitely geometry and algebra. Go ahead, Brother Garfield.
Where do you see us as a community going? Because it seems like we complain about different religious groups and we bring African centered thoughts, and we become Kemetic. We get involved with Kemet and West Africa and all these African cultures. But it seems like we live in in some cases from one religion to a next religion. Where do you see us going? Because I'm looking at all the stuff. I did a video on cults the other day, and when I'm looking at Billy Carson or looking at Young Pharaoh or even Nature Boy, I don't know. I don't think we coming back. I think we spooked out. We spooked out. I mean, as Uncle would say, we spooked out. It's crazy. We love that stuff. We love hearing saying if you drink the silver water or the gold water, you're gonna live longer. We love that stuff. I'm telling you. We love it. I'm telling you, in Jamaica, I had a cousin. She was a nurse, and they told her she had a problem with her heart and she needed surgery. I swear to you, Dr. Maat, the guy in Top Hill, I will never forget this in the country, said, listen, come by my house. I got this plant. If you
Stop, Garfield.
you come by, I'll boil some for you. And trust me, your heart gonna be good. I'm in Jamaica. They got a plan for every damn thing. I'm telling you, we are spooked out. We hate science. We just hate it. What is?
And that,
I don't see the future for us. I don't know.
and Brother Garfield, that's why I deal with the babies. I deal with the babies. I may have conversations, truth to power talks, and talk to adults and post on Instagram. But my focus is on the children, because like you said, a lot of these folks, especially the adults, they're just spooked out. And I really think that's because of the Christian indoctrination, that molds us to be that way. And then when we even say that we moving away from Christianity, we still come to the conscious community spooked out. And so I think a huge part of that is due to religious indoctrination. But I'm dealing with the babies, and that's why programs like Conscious Ingenuity is extremely important, because we're building their character confidence and capabilities through STEAM. And so we're pushing STEM and teaching them to be scientifically literate people. Because see, scientifically literate people, Brother Garfield, wouldn't think that you just got a plant that you can give me that will fix, my heart. Someone who's scientifically literate is going to be a person who operates with critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, analytical skills, right? They're higher order thinking skills. And so you're going to ask some questions like, what do you mean? Well, what's in the plant that would help my heart, brother? Oh, well, so what are the properties of the plant? How is this going to help my heart? How is this? You start asking questions, right? And then you conclude that, no, this plant isn't going to help my heart, right? And so this program, Conscious Ingenuity, which we're going to be offering in the virtually in June. And salute to Ghana. Ghana is going to be rolling it out. There's a few schools in Ghana who will be meeting with virtually starting in June and throughout, the summer. But anyway, it's important that we raise a generation of people who are scientifically literate, because see, scientifically literate people will not fall a victim to people like the young pharaohs, the nature boys, the Bobby Hemmets, and all of those. If I say Phil Valentine, people are going to have a heart attack. So, but people like that, okay? They go, how did you put Phil Valentine in there with young Pharaoh? I would throw some more of your teachers in there with young Pharaoh as well.
People never met Phil Valentine in their life. Never met Phil Valentine. Didn't know he had the gathering of the masses in Brooklyn every 3 months or whatever, and he had all of them there. Bobby Hemmett. He's the one that introduced me to Bobby Hemmett. Hold on, let me scroll up and get this guy's question, because he's like, Garfield, why can't you read my question? So let me find your question first, buddy. Are the math symbols universal? Are the math symbols universal? I don't know what he means by that. That's a question.
I don't know. What is he saying? The plus sign, the addition sign, because it is used all over.
Yeah. Oh, here it goes. The symbol 0 to 9, who created them? And then he asks, are the math symbols universal? So let me put it on the board. There you go. That's what he asked first.
Oh, I'm not sure. So he probably has me, and I'm not one to act like I know when I don't know. So I don't know. And I'm not going to act like I do know. It says the symbol 0 through 9, who created or owned them. This not English. I have no idea. And I'm looking at Ricardo Robinson. He said, yeah, Doc, you wouldn't see calculus in Africa. It was invented by Isaac Newton, a European, when he was in the 20s in England. Absolutely. So, that makes perfect sense, Ricardo.
I need to get back to this guy's questions. Hold on a second.
All right, and after this, brother Garfield, I got to get ready to go. I have a 1:00 class I have to prepare for.
All right, so you know what? Let's go to your class then. Don't worry about it.
No, what was the last question? I want to get it in. What was the last question?
Tiffany, hold on. Let me get Miss Tiffany question, because she gonna text me and cuss me out. So can we get that question in? Can you give 3 examples of African-centered thought as it applies to Black Americans? For example, how is it applied?
3 examples of African-centered thought as it applies. So, Sister Tiffany, Miss Tiffany, are you talking about like Africanisms? I just want to be clear before I answer your question. She said, no, I'm not, LOL. That's what I was thinking. So African-centered thought as it applies to us. So when I think of, African-centered thought, oh my goodness, your question, I'm trying to figure out like what you mean by that, right? Like, are you saying how we operate, as a family, our views, our morals, our values?
Yeah, I would think I would say, just by hearing that question, like,
Mhm.
how would we, as you know, like in African systems, we have like a rites of passage for the sisters. So she's possibly talking about how would you look at growing up a child, use
Right.
thinking about it from Africans. So that's the way I would see it. I mean, Sister Tiffany, you could tell us if
Yeah,
we're
tell
wrong.
us in the chat, Sister Tiffany, because I just want to make sure I answer your question.
Zane Montego, tell me the question real quick. Go ahead, bro.
I want to make sure I answer her question. I want to make sure I understand it so I can order it. She said that was for Garfield, but yes, people keep saying we should live from an African centered thought process. So, what does that mean? Oh, I talked about that earlier, Miss Tiffany. I talked
Yeah,
I talked
because
about that earlier, literally at the beginning of the discussion. That was his first question. That's the
I
first thing
guess
he asked me.
yeah, I guess looking at it from an African perspective, how we dealt with it from our perspective, instead of looking at it from a Eurocentric perspective. It's just
Yep.
like how people deal with birthdays. You might deal with birthdays different than how somebody in Africa deal with birthdays. That's just
Yeah.
a mundane
Our
example.
whole, our holy days, people say holidays, our holy days, our ideas about male female relationships, gender roles, how we, like you said, how we rear our children, the values that we operate with, the morals we operate with, how we view the world, our purpose, our overall culture. Dang, Miss Tiffany, it's a lot. It's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
It's a lot.
Jay Montego, tell me your question real quickly so that I could ask her.
Who is it, Brother Garfield?
Zane Montego, I'm waiting for his question. Zane Montego, come on, bro. You say
He
you got
said
a
it right
question.
there. I see it.
What is to be said about the individuals who say we do not use most of the math taught in schools anyhow? Oh, so like, is it relevant for us to use the math that we are taught in school? It depends. It depends. I mean, for school, it's always basic. In the Caribbean, we grew up in a Eurocentric world, teaching where England was the one that gave us the work, and we had to learn math and English was essential. And it's the same thing here: math, English, and science.
Yeah, it is essential.
It's all
I don't
those
even
things are
understand why
essential.
someone would say, well, we don't use it, we don't. And I would also say it depends on what you do for a living. If you in STEM, you're going to use it. If you're in STEM, you're definitely going to use it. But we
Well,
use
you know,
basic math when you go to the
Dr.
market,
Say something.
when you
Ask a dude on the corner in the pharmaceutical industry if math is important.
absolutely.
And he'll tell you, yes. Was English important? Yes. Was science
Absolutely.
important? Yes. That answer your question. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Dr. Maya, thank you for coming on.
No
I think
problem, brother.
again, I think you're top 5 dead or alive in the community. You're top 5 dead or alive, sis. But we're gonna talk about that
Top
England
five.
trip when you're going, because I might want to go. I'm going again summer. I'm going for a week though. I'm not going for long. I'm going
You
like for
going where you say you going?
yeah, I'm going back to UK for another week.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, brother Garfield, hit me up and let me know when you're going so we can coordinate something because I'll roll out in a heartbeat.
All right, cool. All
All
right,
right,
hey
brother.
family, whether y'all like Garfield or not, you gotta appreciate I'm bringing on the guests. I had Dr. Sheikh Ante Babu on. He's from Senegal. He knew Sheikh Ante Diop. He was on Monday. I had Dr. what's her name? Francesca Stavrakopoulos on yesterday. She's a Hebrew Dr. Francesca is a expert in Hebrew Bible, and then now I got Dr. Mayat, who's just an expert in every damn
No, I'm not, brother. Don't say that.
thing. Sheffrin said, "I'm going to Egypt." Go ahead, and make sure you change your name too while you're at it.
All right, brother Garfield. I'm gonna run. Peace and love to you, and peace and love to the listening audience.
All right, peace and love, family. All right, family, I'm out of here. This is Brother Garfield again. Another beautiful show. I've got to go back and listen and take my notes and do what we do. All right, peace and love. If y'all want to argue about something else, I'll go live like 3 o'clock. Y'all could argue about any foolishness y'all want to argue about. All right, peace and love, family. We out. Subscribe.
Helen Hansel was able to win any competition she took part in. She was known as the